today's session, and as you can see, it's a different type of topic we are covering today. It's SQL for data analysis. I believe SQL is now the basic algebra of the data analysis domain. Everybody expects you to know it, even when they don't put it in the description of what you're going to work on. But as long as you're going to be dealing with enterprise data, most of those data sit on a SQL database in the end. And the interesting thing is, even with the push towards the modern way of doing things, NoSQL, data lakes, when they want you to connect to the data and extract it, they still use some variant of a SQL query language. So you start hearing things like Costco query language, which is what Microsoft use. Then Google uses BigQuery. So everybody tries to maintain that that SQL as a common way for you to query data from any platform, whether they are the new types of platforms or they are the old relational DB platform. Why I'm saying that is, I believe that everybody should be proficient, at the basic level, almost like when we say algebra, everybody expects you to know how to do 2 plus 2. The basic algebra, they might not expect you to do the complex ones, doing integrations and all those ones that we learn, at the university or at the almost the head of a high school level. But the usual one that we expect to have as a life skill. So that's the same thing I'm wanting to preach to everyone, that if you are not comfortable with using SQL, then make it one of your immediate goal to become comfortable retrieving data directly from SQL. So we're going to cover some things that will get you grounded, and you can ask questions. Just raise your hand. I don't have a rigid structure. I'm careful not to give people, default speak access. So that's why you might not be able to speak without raising your hand. And you can type anything you want to let me be aware of in the chat box. I have 2 screens, so it's easy for me to see whatever you type. Okay, so I'm going to do the usual intro, which is this is brought to you by UrBizEdge. We're a training company. We focus purely on data analysis. The domain is changing, which is very difficult because sometimes you want to focus on very few things and do them well. But again, if we are providing a real world service, then we have to adapt with the way things are changing. So it's difficult, but that's the right thing. We should teach our participants what is current, what is going to help them in the job roles, even as the companies are also, it's also difficult for companies to migrate from a way of doing something to a new way. So it's the difficulty that is shared across every stakeholder, the companies, the individuals, and also we that we're into training and skilling. MHS is our Canadian entity. We do same training, consulting, and today there will be gifts. So I won't talk too much about myself. I'll just say I'll share my LinkedIn connect on the chat. So if you want to connect with me, if you are not connected, yes, it's always good to have everyone in my connection, because, like you say, your network is your network. So I'm going to share these on the chat. So let's try this way. So you can connect with me. And so we go to today's presentation. I'm going to just share what I originally had in mind as the outline, so that you get some kind of, you see the pattern we want to follow. Then I'll tell you where we might compromise, but you have the ability to tell me to skip if you see that I'm not going to reach where you want me to talk a lot more about. Then you can, signal me and say, oh, please, can you ensure that you cover this part of your outline? So I just want to, let me just drag it so you can see what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to grab from here what I had in mind to cover. Okay. Then you can influence, you can tell me, oh, please move to the next topic, So I'll start first of all with one of our training slides. I'll be brief about the intro part because I think I have it on my open. I have so many screens open, right? Okay, so let's quickly start with assuming this was our full training, right? What we normally try to showcase, explain to everyone before producing rating film slideshow. This first time I'm doing a slideshow anyway. So SQL for data analysis, right? And what's SQL itself, right? SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It has become the standard, it has become the universal language for querying data from any type of database, not just relational database. So I'm going to explain what we mean by relational database and non-relational database. But let's leave it there that SQL has become the universal language for querying data from any data storage system. Let's put it that way. Then what are the different aspects of SQL? Because it's not, if you ask me as a data analyst, it's not everything you need to, it's not every aspect of SQL you need to worry yourself about. In 2008, when I did my Oracle 10G, database administration certification, there was a lot they taught us, a lot that, there were things as a data analyst I never needed to do. In fact, the company were not going to give me an access that could do some of those things. So I will help us to understand the different aspects, and then the one you need to pay attention to as a data analyst. So let's look at this second bottom of the slide, data retrieval. Obviously, you will need to do data retrieval. So you could, in SQL, there's data retrieval, data manipulation. Some people like to use acronyms, DML, DDL. Let me not use acronyms because it's not to show off here. It's mostly just to help us to get this concept in a very easy to relate way, easy to remember way. So think of it as when you're dealing with SQL, you can use SQL for data retrieval. You're fetching data from whatever storage system that you can connect to and taking it to somewhere else where you need to use it. It could be Excel, it could be even a SQL development environment. It could be anything, but you are retrieving the data. You are not altering the data in place. Okay, so that brings us to the second one, data manipulation. So that one involves you modifying the existing data in the database. As a data analyst, in a large organization, they will not give you they are not expecting you to do that. They will rather let the data engineers do that. They will not want to allow every analyst to be able to alter data in the DB. So if they begin to check audit logs and they see that you do stuff like that, they might sanction you. They might even withdraw your access because it makes things difficult to control. They would rather let those kind of things be done by people who they are the data architects, they are the people who that's their job, primary job role. So then there's the data definition. This is almost getting to the beginning of before we have a data. Someone needs to do the architecture, the schema, do the definition in itself, defining the structure and the sustainable approach to use to set up the database structure and schema and columns and all of the things that I will mention as things that are the components of a database itself. So data definition, again, for you as a data analyst, it's not supposed to be part of your job role. If you are doing it, it's a risk, even if the company lets you do that, because there are people who they need to understand database tuning. They need to understand. There's a lot of things you need to understand that makes it such that it's best for people that's their own career line, their career DB admins. Then we have the data control and data transaction control aspect, so I just call it data/transaction control. This involves managing access rights, privileges, setting things as regards how to commit transactions, how to manage rollbacks. So again, these are things that you will not have to worry about. So if you ask me, I will say most of what you will do, will fall within this first category. You will need to know how to retrieve data. It might look as if, why are you so limited to 1 out of like 5? Because they're actually 5: data retrieval, data manipulation, data definition. Data control is one, transaction control is another, but put them together here so that I don't make things look complex for us. So why, you might think, this is so very little you need to do. Data retrieval is another beast in itself, By the time you start to hear about all the things you could do, there's nothing someone should be able to do with Power BI and with Excel that you should not be able to replicate with SQL, with this data retrieval. So imagine all the complex things that someone can do with Power BI and Excel, and then you have to do it with just SQL. Then you will know that there's a lot that can happen with the data retrieval aspect. So, go back to those. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Feel free to, raise your hand if you want to speak out. So databases themselves, they are structured collections of data that are organized and stored in a way to allow efficient retrieval, management, and manipulation. It sounds like a big word, but like I said, it is simply just storing data and everything that involves, that's related to managing it, meta, because some things metadata, things that regard data dictionary, schema, views, some other things that come along with it. So it's just like you have a house, but then someone can decide to have a bungalow, another person can decide to have a skyscraper. A house is still a house, So it's just like that. Depends on the complexity of the entity and the future they are looking at. They want things to be set up in a way that as things begin to evolve, they won't have to tear down what they have and build it all over again. So there are two general types of databases. We have the relational database. I hope you hear me clearly and my voice is loud enough. If you want me to shout, I can shout. I'm the only one in the house. My daughter has gone out, thankfully. So relational databases are the first categories, So when you think of the common names, MySQL, there's a mistake here. Google BigQuery is actually not a relational database. So we're going to have to yank this up, kind of. So Postgres, SQL Server, Oracle used to be the beast in that space, but unfortunately, cost and people just beginning to the cloud. They didn't migrate to the cloud fast enough. That's what I think, and most of their cost factor was such a way that other people with a more affordable cost structure were able to hedge them out of the market or reduce their market share. But relational databases are those ones where when you are setting them up, you have to define what you expect. You have to define the database itself, define the tables, define what kind of data we go into each column of the tables, define every single thing in such a way that if someone tries to put in a data that is not what you have explicitly declared as expecting, it will fail. It won't happen. So it keeps integrity, of your database artifacts. So it makes a lot of sense for companies, for things that are sensitive. Imagine a bank. You don't want someone typing text into where there should be, the bank balance or transaction value. So it makes a lot of sense for a whole lot of the enterprise use cases. So it's still very popular. But then nowadays, because of the ease of storing data and the way that most of us, when we think of data, we think about text. We think about like ones and like text. Data is more than text, videos, audio. So there are a whole lot of things that are data that are not text. And so those kind of things are not suited for relational databases. Then now when we talk about text, some texts are not even structured. You can't, if you want to create a structure for them, you are going to just give yourself an impossible task. So imagine you want to create structure around what people tweet. So I'm about to do stuff that involves scraping Twitter, but since Elon Musk took over, it's no longer, he has closed all the free ways you can get data directly from Twitter. So, but I used to scrape Twitter, Google Trends, so you could see what artists were. I don't know if you guys have come across some of these analyses that show what people searched the most last week, which artists in Nigeria were most searched. So all those kind of things were things where when I do those queries, they don't come in a way that I can call, a structured way. They are just a lot of things mumbled together that I need to still keep in a kind of table so that I can use for analysis. So we call those ones of structured data too. So there are databases that's what they're optimized for. So we call them non-relational databases. Some, are labeled NoSQL, but the truth is everything is still storing data. We're going to now move on to the next slide. And I don't want to waste too much time, but I will advise you that if you are trying to learn this so that you can be able to work for companies or be able to enter a large organization and easily fit in, MySQL is the most popular. Let me tell you the truth. MySQL is the most popular database, but MySQL is not what most companies use. And when you are joining a large organization that is spending heavily on infrastructure, that's not what they will use, So if you're learning MySQL, it could be maybe you want to do your own, like in my case, there were stuff that we were doing internally. MySQL was the cheapest way to deploy those solutions, So we are building a product, a web product. MySQL is free. It's now even called MariaDB if you are using it for web. So I will say don't get carried away by what's most popular or like what you see some people in your group use. If you are thinking about getting into the corporate space and plugging in and being able to use what they use or have something that if you say that's what you know, nobody's going to be like, but you need to know something better, So I would say get comfy with using SQL Server Management Studio. Learn to know how to use it. If you have only that one and something that you put on your CV as I know how to use, I use this heavily, and I use SQL Server also too, but nobody cares too much about you might get away with not saying what kind of SQL Server you use, but you need to not, at least when you are on the first day at the job, and you are struggling to use this, it becomes obvious that something is wrong, So because at the point, this is what you will use for most companies. So you don't want a case where you start to signal the wrong thing to them when you are struggling to use it, and they will know if you don't know how to use it because you can't work in a vacuum except you are working even when you're working in a classroom, when you share your screen, they will see the way you type out things. Okay, so we're going to use this for our webinar and also in our training. That's what we try to use. And if you know how to use it, the query languages are similar across board. So I'm going to stop talking now because I want to optimize for the practical side. Okay, and so for installation of SQL itself, I will say you can download SQL Server 2022 is the most recent. So there is a developer version that has everything. So and it's free. Before Microsoft used to tie it to an enterprise license, but now it's free. So you can download SQL Server. On premises. There's also on Azure. Azure is easy because you're just clicking and picking and paying. So this is the one I would say you should download. So I'm going to just share this link. SQL Server 2022 developer version. So I'm sharing the link. Because of time, I will not try to download it, but I can tell you very easily, once you click download and you run it, go with basic when you're installing. Don't try to do anything complicated. I'll share a link of the video. We have some videos on it. So maybe I'll share it after the training so I don't take too much time on that. So once you install it, right, the other thing you need to install is SSMS, right? So install SSMS. You need to also download SQL Server Management Studio. So I'm going to share this too. Install SQL Server Management Studio. Okay, so I've shared that also. And then by the time you do those two things, and in that order, the SQL Server first before the Management Studio. So once you do that, right, you should have something to read. All right, so you should have an environment that's like this. So I'm going to increase the zoom of my screen so that you can easily see. Take it to 50. 50 should be big enough. Remember, I say you can influence. You know, if you begin to think I'm taking too much time on intro, which I also think so, please also worry me up. All right, so I'm going to put my outline on the other screen. I'm going to put the outline on the other screen. Okay, great. So what is it that I want us to use? There's a database called AdventureWorks. That's also what I use a lot for my demo. I can drag some things to the screen so that you can see. I'm writing a book, and also that's what I'm using. The advantage of it is it's a database that's mirrored around a company that it's fictitious company, but I've worked on companies project. I've worked for a manufacturer, FMCG. I don't want to mention names. I've worked with a lot of companies that I could see their DB, and especially those ones using Dynamics CRM, ERP. This is the exact structure. And if you're using SAP, it's slightly different, but it's still the same types of data that companies keep within their enterprise tools. So this is like as if you have a company already, you know. I'll show you what the schema looks like. I have it open already. Okay. Just drag that here. That's the beauty of multiple screens. To maximize this. All right. So this is going to look tiny, obviously, but just look at sales, human resources. Oh, great. You can see this portion of it, the schemas that are there, right? So I'll see if I can share this in the chat, but it has what is rich enough. If I'm taking a class and someone is like, I'm from procurement, let's stop using all these sales data. Can you maybe take an example that's related to procurement? Very easy. I'm not having to say, oh, sorry, I don't have the data now, or let's go set up another set of things. So this is rich enough to capture kinds of domains that I encounter when I am dealing with people who work for companies. They are either having to analyze operations data, sales data, even those that work for startups that don't have all these things like production. The stuffs are similar. All companies have HR. All companies have entities that are like tied to people. All companies make sales, otherwise they're not going to exist. Even NGOs too, they have a way, they don't call it sales as such, but they have a way of also tracking value and money. Okay. So we're going to, I think, to make things easy, right? I'm going to do sales. There's someone who was the first person to react when I said this session was going to happen, and I know he's in sales, so I think I'm just going to pick sales so that that would be like the reward for me recognizing his extra effort to say happy this session is happening. So I'm going to pick sales, and then when we look into the data itself, right? So these are the sales tables. Okay. So I will explain what the sales tables are. I think I have the Microsoft Word documents. So I'm also writing a book, and in that book, I'm using the same material for the dashboard side. So instead of taking too much time, I'll just bring so this is it. So for sales schema, what do we have? We have country, region, currency. So this is just holding the currencies and country. For our example we want to do, I will not focus much on that. We have a table that holds credit card, but because of time, let me go to the table that I think we can easily try to make value out of, right? So you see the sales order detail. Everybody understands what sales order details are. Or most people in sales, that's like the core of what they do work with. So we're going to try to use these two heavily for today's demonstration. So sales order detail. When companies make sales, different products, this table has the record line-wise, products to each line, and then the unit price, the discount, and all the things that relates to product-wise sales. But then when a customer make order, a customer might order for multiple products at once. So those kind of records are kept in the sales order table, right? So it's a very consistent pattern. I've seen this play out across all companies. It has become like a default way of setting up those kind of sales transactions across all ERPs. So that's why this would be a very nice thing to use for demonstration that I want to do. So I'm going to go here. So those two tables are this. You might be asking how did these two tables come about, right? Well, the moment you set up AdventureWorks, which is very easy if you want to practice too, and I will just quickly mention it. So if you want to practice, you can download AdventureWorks. It's a free to use AdventureWorks database. I'm going to just drop it in the chat. The instruction on how to install it is also, I think it's there here. Install with screenshots, perfect. So the one I'm using is 2019, but there's not much difference. You can also use the 2022. So I'm going to put this in the chat, and then we can do as much. Yeah. The practice DB is AdventureWorks 2019. So you can get it from there. So let's start. If you look at the outline I shared, right? I said I'm going to try to cover as much as possible this. Okay, so I'm following this order. So let's start. Task 1, right? This is the table, the two tables we are going to use. Okay, so if I want to even see what is inside the table, right? The thing that allows us to explore the content of a table, to just say, show me what I have in the table, is a statement called select. Okay, so I'm going to just say select. Excel, I said Excel. SQL is not case sensitive, so I don't have to worry about I'm using lowercase or uppercase or mixture. But if you want to, depending on companies, they might want to have a coding style, a pattern. So if most, for pattern wise, if there is a way that you can format your SQL statements, usually the keywords are in caps, or whenever the system generates them, it uses caps. But like I said, it's not important. So I'm not going to keep up with that. So just type it anyhow. So I'm going to say select all. So it uses star for all, and that's a common wildcard. Even in Excel, star means any other thing after all. So select all, then from what table now? So I can type the table, I can drag it. So I'm just going to drag, let's start with the order detail. Order detail is going to be easy for you to understand when you see the content. So this is all I need to do, right? And then I can press F5 to execute everything I have on this query window. So if I do F5, it will do that. Also, I can click on execute here, right? From here, you can see which database you are on. So in case you have multiple databases on the server that you're connected to. So in my case, I can see that I'm on the one I want. So that's just to point that out. I'm going to use this for now, but later on, I will use another keyboard shortcut F5. So as you can see, it is showing me that there are 121,000 rows of data, and I am able to see all the data that are there, sales order ID, sales order detail ID, carrier tracking number, order quantity, product ID. So product ID is the ID for the product. So which means if I want to see which product exactly it is, I will need another table called product to get the product name from. So we'll start little by little. So step one is the fact that select is the natural way to make SQL return records that you want to see, in this case, display within the SSMS. Okay, so I'm going to now make things a bit, more interesting. So that takes me to so task 2. Select distinct. Okay. If I want to see what products we sold, now if I do select, I can specify exactly what I want to see. I can specify that I want to see by the way, right? If you're lazy like me, I'm not actually lazy, but like if you want to be faster, if you want to make things more convenient and not have to remember the title, the thing to type, you can expand even the tables and you can drag the columns you want. Okay, so we'll do that. Then in another situation, we'll do typing and use autocomplete. So if I want to see all the product ID, right? So that's just what I want to see. From now, you see I'm no longer using uppercase. From same sales order table, right? Now, if I do this, I'm selecting this query because now I have multiple queries. So if I do execute everything, but if I select the one I want to execute and I click execute, that will be the only one that will run, okay? So once I do this, you see it gives me, but this is not what will make sense for me. I would like to see, it's still showing me 121,300 columns, right? Someone is asking me, is it lightweight? Don't do the lightweight, do the full version, don't do the LT. So I'll just reply, not the lightweight, not the LT. Do the full one. Remember, you're doing this to properly learn how to, so the full one is the one that has richer content for you to enjoy working with. So back to this is not what I want. I want distinct. So that brings us to, I can come here and say, select distinct. Distinct. So the moment I put the keyword distinct, then I'm not going to have what we have that things are duplicated. I'm going to have, distinct. So I can see here we have 266 products that were sold. So in reality, you will want to know over a period of time. So it will be like, over what period of time, maybe last month or this last week or yesterday, what were the products we sold, right? But for now, because I'm following a list, I don't want to model things up. So we'll get to that. But at least you now understand that there's a keyword called distinct that allows you to return distinct records in a column. Okay, so we're going to go to the next, which is select top. And I'm going to show you something interesting. So let's start with something interesting, okay, don't worry, I'll start with explaining it easily, see in a simple way, then we'll go to what is interesting. scratch that. I'll start with the interesting one. So if I right-click on a table and I say select, if I look at all these options that come up in, I right-click. If I see all these options in, take a look at these options that come up with the right-click, you see there's a select top 1,000 rows, right? I don't have another type of select. So most times that I'm lazy, I don't want to type, I just want to let SSMS display for me records. So this is the fastest way to quickly display records. Once you do this, can you see what happens? It says select top, then the number of records you want to see. So this also always display all of the column names, all the columns, it doesn't do star. So in our case, where if you are too lazy and you want to do star, let's check if this will work expectedly. Okay, so you see, I could still do star. So let's go back to our practice, so don't worry if that was too fast. We're going to do it from scratch. That was the interesting one, the fact that I could display, without typing, I could just pick, right click and pick. So let's come back here and say, I want to select, the top as the keyword. How many records? Top, let's say 10. Top 10. Then you're going to be wondering, how is it going to get there? How does he order the top? Is it by A to Z of what particular column? Is it largest to smallest again of what particular column? So those are the natural things that will begin to occur to us as a data analyst. You want to even be able to explain what you're looking at. But let's start from simple and then we can begin to adjust for complex reality. So I'm going to select this. And once I run it, you see it selects top 10. And interestingly, it seems to be ordered by the order identity. But what if I want to order it by something else, right? So there's another keyword. So now I'm beginning to scatter. You know what? Let me not break the flow of the mail agenda. So we'll go there. So I'm going to go to task number 4 because it's just in task number 6 that we have the order by. So I'm almost there. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Task 4 is now the where clause. This where clause is an amazing tool. It's sweet to use. Let me use that word. It's you just like SQL the moment you begin to do where. So now remember what I said. If you actually work for ABC Limited or Adventure Works Limited, that's the name of this company, and nobody's going to just be telling you, show me all the details. No one is just going to be asking you, I want to see top sales. There is always time frame because companies work based on time frame. They have weekly targets or quota, monthly target, yearly target. A lot of things are time based. Exactly, if I has even help me explain it in another nice way. It's to put in conditions. It's a conditional statement clause. Okay, so a lot of things you'll be dealing with real data will involve conditions. Oh, I want to see what has happened within a particular period or to particular brands or to there's always that need to isolate what you're interested in because companies will have data that spans days, months, years, decades for companies that have been around for long, and different departments or brands or products. So most times you're analyzing a particular brand, a product. So let me not take too much time saying what you already know. Let's start with something interesting. So I'm going to say, let's start with the one I think is. So that will take us to another table. As you can see on this table, I don't have dates. So if I want to see sales that we made at a particular date period, I'm not going to be able to do it here, right? So we need to go to the other table, the table that has the transactions date-wise, order date, ship date, which is this one, right? So I'm going to say select. Let's just start with what will make us to see everything. Select all from sales, order, header. Okay, and then the moment I do this, I now have a table that track all the customer orders, the order date, the ship date, the sales order number itself, the purchase order number, the customer ID, the sales rep, that manages that account, the region like 33. So you see, this is a richer set of information for me to use and the value. But let's start first of all with sales that happen at a particular period, right? So if you are exploring this table and you don't even know what periods are available there, let me go and cheat and just quickly cheat by looking at another view I have so that I don't break the flow. So I have a separate view I've put on my other video. I'll use that to quickly check the date period I have, in that table. So I can see from June 2011 to, okay, so we have data up until Q2 2014. So if I want to see, sales that happen in the month of June 2014, because that's the latest sales data we have here. So I'm going to just say where order dates. So I begin to type. Now, the interesting thing is I'm typing. Before I was dragging. If you remember, I was dragging from. Now I'm typing. The moment I type, I see an autocomplete options, So I pick the one that I know it is. I do tab. So it's equal to, in this case, it will not be equal, it will be a range I want. So I will show us how I can use between, and now I can use, let me just check my outline again so that. Let's crash that outline. Let's begin to do things where we are mixing things up. So let's start with, I want where stops away. Click on the second screen. Sorry, just rearranging stuff on my screen. All right, so let's start with very easy to understand. I'll say it's greater than or equal to the first day. We usually use this single apostrophe. So the first day, 2014, 06, 01. Okay, so if I do this, it will, if we have data up until 2023, it's going to give me data up until 2023, right? So if I want to cap it, I will say, and same order dates is less than or equal to 2014 or 6, 30, right? So 14, 2014, 6. I'm going to select these. I'm going to stop following the agenda. So I'll start making things complex right now. So I'll start coming up with stuff on the fly so that I can be more spontaneous instead of checking outline. So once I do this, you will see that I will have other dates. I will have other dates that fall between that period. If we check it now, 139 rows. Now, is there a smarter way I could have done this, right? So yes, I could have just said, where other dates is between and I can put everything on the same line. Okay. So other date is between these two periods. And I should get the same thing. See, 939 rows. So we've been able to touch where we've been able to touch the usual equal to, less than, equal to. Then we've seen another thing that is called between, right? So I'm going to go to a table of regions. Okay, so I want to show you something that will be easy for you to see and at the same time understand what the message I'm trying to pass across. So, does this have sales reason? Let's use this. Let's use territory ID. So there's a table for territory ID, right? If I go to sales territory and I do this select, I've shown us this anyway. So you see, these are the different regions we have. If I want to see sales that happened in let's say Canada, which is ID 6, right? Good. So if I go back here, this is our data that we're using. Now I have a table here that shows territory ID. Now, what I want to see is I want to see total sales. So I can say I want to see total sales. I want to see total sales for the same period. So I'm going to say I want to see some. So we can use, these are now the mathematical computations now. But that's why I said I'm going to break the flow because I'm looking at the time and I want it to be more spontaneous. I want to see the total sales amount and quantity. So let's start with total sales will be this due, total due. Total due. So I will say this will be as my sales amount. So I'm now using what we call an alias sales amount. I will tell us why I'm doing this. Let's run this first of all. With this, I see the sales amount. Now, if I didn't put this alias and I run the same command, do you see that I get a no name column in front? Why? Because I have created a calculated value and I didn't mention what will be the new name of it. So you have to start getting used to using this. When we get to join, it's going to be very important to even use this alias. And then what's also interesting is I could omit this. So if you omit the as, it will also work. But because I'm training us, it's easier to read this way. Now that is for the sales amount. Let me also bring in the quantity. Let me cheat. Let me just go to my other screen where I have everything. Let me look for another field. Okay, my sales order header does not have quantity. Yeah, that's interesting. The quantities are in the order table. So in the sales order details. So no problem. Now, what I want to do is I want to show this against the territories. So if I want to show this against the territory, I need to do something else. I need to do group by territory. Remember, we have territories. I've shown us what territories look like. So I'm going to come here and say I want to do the same sales amount, right? But, you know, I will have to say group by. For now, I'm going to comment this out so that you will see something. Commenting is a double hyphen. So I'll say group by territory ID. Then I need to also come here and say territory, show me the territory ID. Okay, so I will move this one forward. I will do this as the first thing to show, and then this as the thing to show in front. So if I select this and I do run, I will see the territory ID and the sales. Now I want these sales to, if you are coming from Excel, Okafor wants to kill us. You say we should make sure we get to stop procedures and common table expressions. We will not get to stop procedure. Let me disappoint you ahead. But let's see how far we can do and maybe we'll get to Stockbroker to CISI. So if you're coming from an Excel background, you will prefer to have this formatted as a comma style. So that's for comma style that we use in Excel, right? It's just, you say format, wrap this thing there, then single apostrophe, N, capital N. Okay, so if I run this, you will see that I'm going to get that. Okay, now this is easier to read. I always do this for my queries, because it's easier to read. And then, but this territory ID is not easy to, we know the territories they are different names, France and all the rest. So why not just show the territory names too? So that brings us to join. Okay, but before we get to join, why, if I uncomment this, if I say, okay, where the other date is between, because this is showing me all of the sales since start of time. Now, if I run this, can you see that it's not working? Right? In fact, I can see this squiggly red line underneath where. So the moment you use group by, you can no longer use where. You have to use another clause, another keyword called having. So that's the one thing you need to remember. That the moment you use group by, you no longer should use where, it has to be having. So now if I run this, okay, sorry, I need to do something. I'm going to, first of all, so that I can even prove this, let's say having territory ID. That's what happens when you cut and join. Let's just say having territory ID equals to 6. Let's even just establish that where and having, then we can fix the thing it was complaining about. So at least you're clear about, I can't use where. If I try to use where, I get a problem. Then I have to use having. So that's the main thing. The moment you use group by, it has to be having. So I know what it's complaining about. I don't know the easy solution to it. It wants me to always have what I put in having to also be part of what will be here. But if I put that here, it will start doing day-wise for me. I don't want to show day-wise. So that's why I decided to yank off the other date. But let's start with, now that this is clear, I'm going to, I'll solve it by another way, that problem. We can solve it. You see this from sales table, right? So what if that brings us to the common table expression. So I could come here. Let's try to solve it anyway. So I come here, this one, right? Put it as a table. Okay. As filtered table. Let's take this out for now. You know what? So that you will see what I'm combining together. Let's leave this alone. So let's do something that will help us to fix what I was trying to do before, where I will have data that was between here. So I'm going to grab this. No, so I think the where clause should come before. I don't think I understand what the person is saying. So, but I'm looking at time. So let's do, if I take this, right? We know these runs, right? Great. Then I think we wanted to also show territory. So let's bring in territory ID. Territory ID. Okay. Then you spell it correctly. Territory ID. Oh, this was not the group by one. So sorry. Sorry. Yeah, so this is actually correct. Sorry. This is what I want. So I want the data that is from here. Let's just start. Actually, this is what I want. So this is the filter table that I want. Yeah, this one. So I'm going to call this, I'm going to put it in a bracket and say this is a filtered table. Okay. You can delete this, you can put it, but for now, so I'm saying this is a filtered table, right? Then I want my selection. Let me just make my life easy. F. So I want my selection. I want this selection that we were trying to do. You might be asking, what am I trying to do? I'm still trying to do the same thing, but I want to do it on this filtered data. So now let's do that together. Let's drag this down a bit so that there's more screen, more space for a while. So I'm going to now take this up to here. I'll put it here. So I'm telling that you should grab me this from here, right? Good. Group by territory ID. I will put that one. Let's close this. I'll put that one here. Okay. That's already there. So I'll put that one here, right? So now if I run this, there's going to be a problem. Let's run this. But this is not the best way to run it anyway. It worked. But as an advice, right? Whenever you are using two tables, because this is one table generated on the fly, then this is like another output that is coming. Like, let me explain. There's a table already. There's this table, says territory table. This is one table. Then this is another table that is generated on the fly. So those are two tables, right? So whenever you begin to do stuff like that, where you are creating a temporary table on the fly, the recommended way is to always append the names. You know, to append your prepend prepend if there's something like prepend the names with the alias for which table you are referring to. So what I'm simply saying is, what is recommended is to always do this. You know, I'm prepending, I'm saying get this territory ID from this table, get this. So, and group by is the moment you do join, you will find out that you can't even get away from it. Okay. So what have we done? We have used a table that we had already before. This is a table that we had before. We have put it as an internal temporary table, right? So if I run this, you see that, just run it from here. See that this is a fully functional table in itself. So I've used this to filter things to what I want, to strip out some things that I'm not interested in. Then I'm now running what I want as if I'm running it against normal table, right? I'm now running this, you know, this component. I'm running it to go to pick from that my temporary table. Okay, so that's like an introduction to the city that we are talking about, the common table expression. This is super powerful. You know, this is amazing. This thing makes it possible to do a lot of amazing things. So let's begin to, if you just give me 9 more minutes so that I can do some wow things. Let me look at my agenda. But anyway, I know I've not covered most, I understand, but let me do some amazing things that I've had to do in real life stuff. Okay. So now let's talk about a proper report. We want to see sales reports for last month. Let's even say for this month, for this period, June report. So I want to see June sales. Then I want to see it by product. Yeah, I want to see June sales by product. Now, what is the thing that is going to make this a bit complex is the fact that I have products here, product-wise sales are here, and money, the sales value are here. So those are two different tables, right? So let's see it. So I'm going to say what I want. Let's start with what I want. I want products. Okay. I also want sales amount. I also want quantity. Let's even say I also want quantity. So I want quantity, I want product name, quantity, sales amount. Let's even stop at this, right? From where do I want this? So I want this from a table that is already filtered. Select all from a filtered table. So that filtered table is already this. Let's just say from filtered table. To just last month. Okay. So I want that selection to happen, from here as filter table. Okay. And then, so that this does not confuse you, let me make this the only thing you see on screen. Okay, good. Okay, so I want product quantity sales amount from filter table. And unfortunately, the filter table, this filter table, if we run it, I can get that one out. So we already have filter table here. So I'm going to grab this and put it here. So if I run this filter table, you will see that I want sales amount. Sales amount is there. It's total due. So I can say, sum of total due as sales amount. So that part is clear. Now I want quantity. There's a problem. I don't have quantity in this place. Okay. So where am I going to get the quantity from? I want product. I don't also have product in this place. Okay, so how am I going to solve this issue? Okay, now I'm going to just go to where I have it. I have those information here. I have products, which we will get the name later. Don't worry. I have quantity. So I have those two information here, right? So how am I going to get those information out if, the so I'm going to get it out means I need to do a join. I need to join, this to this one where I have the sales amount. Okay, so let's go back to our original formula and see how we can do a basic join. Okay, so I'm going to put. So I have to be now specific. The moment I'm going to do that, I have to be specific now and say I want I don't need other dates. I want, let's see how I'm going to do this. Okay, so let's first leave this for now and do a basic join first of all. Okay. So if I come here, what can I join on? For here, I have sales order ID. For this other one, is it? For this other one, I have sales order ID. So that's the one thing that can help me to relate the two tables. So let's start slowly. Let's start from select all. From this one has all the details. Okay. I run this. I see everything. One thing is missing. I don't have total sales. Okay. So I can, oh, I have total sales here. This is total sales. Okay. Okay. Life is easy. I can do this too. Okay, great. So I'm going to now just use a different approach then. So I'm just going to say select sum of line total as sales amount. So total of this will be my sales amount. Show me that should even show me the product ID. Product ID. Show me some of some of quantity, order quantity, order quantity. So we need this, we need this, we need this. Okay. So if I run this, so I've spelled something wrongly. Oh, okay, great. Whenever you do aggregation, you must do group by. So group by product ID. So that's what is missing in my statement. So once I do this, I forgot to give this a name. So I'll say as sales quantity. So are you beginning to see how you can do aggregation, but on one table? This is just on one table. Now, remember what I said, I want to show these in a period. So this is across everything, whereas dates and period is on the other table. So how am I going to now do it such that period I'll be able to filter by period, right? So I need to do another thing. I need to get a subset of this table that will only be between the period we're interested in. So I need to do a select let's do select star. Select star from this same sales order detail, right? Okay. Then I will say it should um join think this through. So this as order detail, let's call it D. Join on, let me just look at the, so I have this table here. So I want to pick on what to join on. So, so small as other subjects. So it will be between the order ID, sales order ID, and there are two IDs. I want to know which one will just be perfect. Okay. Okay, great. I think I've figured the one I will use. So it will be join. I'm going to join. Now, when I do join, I will tell you there are 4 types of join. And but I will tell you about that later. Let's first solve this part. So I'm going to drag this order header. I want to get from the order header, as header. So let's call this header. So I'm going to say on d dot sales order ID. So this is the thing I verified, and is equal to header dot. I'm looking for that same sales order ID. Okay. So I need to join from here. Okay. Let's do this. If I select and run this, I'm going to have the same thing, the same data. Why? Because I've not filtered this yet. Are you getting me? So I'm simply just saying join, but join everything together and just give me what is in both places. So in this case, what I now need to do is what we have done here before, this place. So I'll just grab here. And this is the table I need. So I'll say join. Are you getting me now? So I am telling it to now join a subset. Join everything. Let me just put this in a different line so that it makes it easy. So instead of what I did where I put the entire table, I'm now putting a subset of the table. Once I do this, what will happen is I'm going to only have transactions that were in this period. Can you see the rows have reduced? It's now 2,000 instead of 121,000. So when I now have this, I can replace what I have here with this. So I can just grab this, right? As, I don't know, maybe DH as table use as you can. And that will now be what I will use here and say select all of these from here, group by. So are you seeing what I'm doing? I have essentially replaced this with that long. Let me undo it. Let me just undo. This was what we did. As you, right? This was what we did before. This, I'm saying, gives us sales across. So I'm now saying I want to replicate this, right? But I'm going to filter out this. I'm going to take away this table. And in its place, I will put this thing we have done. This one that we have done, right? That's what I will put as what it should work across. Okay, as you. Okay, so if you are getting me, you will see that there's a pattern. I'm creating a temporary table and saying you should use this, and I'm going to say u dot. Why is this complete? Page join. Of course, I've not completed my selection. Let go from here. Let me just recopy. That's here. So put this in brackets. I will run it. It will tell me what is missing because I'm looking at it that there's no mistake there. So if there's sometimes this thing might give you a false alarm. I'm looking at it. I don't see any mistake there. So dots. Fine. Says I've used you multiple times. Did I use it somewhere else? Okay, the column sales order ID was specified for you multiple times. Let's see what that is. Sales order ID, sales order ID. Let's check this one. Wouldn't have told us this is not an ideal way to okay, let's take out the group and see if okay, it's complaining about the brackets. You know, whenever this thing is looking this way, I just delete whatever I've done. Rerun all the separate components of my formula. So this is working fine. This is working fine. I need to replace this with this. I need to, okay, let me see. Someone is trying to give me a tip. Last statement contain you should not. I don't think that was a problem. So this, I need to replace this. So I'm going to copy this one and put it here. Then I'm going to space it out. The part I want to replace, I'll space it out. Okay, so this is the part I want to replace. Oh, now I see the problem. Select all from sales order detail, yes. Then grab this, it is here. The brackets, open brackets, the close brackets. For now, I will leave out the group by. So, and I'll also leave out this product. Let's even see if this runs. I'm supposed to put alias, but don't worry. So I'm going to put let me use another one as y. Let me y dot order quantity y dot it's actually complaining about integration, like when you have something referring to multiple things and you didn't specify which one. So I'm suspecting this is inside of this my table here. Select all. This is the problem. So where my I was just giving myself headache for no reason. So select all from there. Then this is this. This is let's see. Let's run the inside first. This worked. Let's run the outside. This worked. Let's run this. Let's run. I need to yank off this. That's the other problem with when you put in star. So I have to be very explicit with what I want. So there are multiple sales order ID. So I've seen the problem now. There's sales order ID here. There's also sales order ID in these other. So if I say D dots, this will be select I dot, then select D dot star. That solves it. So that's the problem. I'm going to just replace this part. Please run it. Sorry that it might now be looking more complex than I was intending to. The issue is, remember I told us that you make it a habit to always use this alias. So what has happened in my case is I did not use it here. And then we have a column. We have some columns that were in both places. So this was now confused. Which one should we use? Is it the one from here or the one from there? So that was the problem. So it was getting multiple instances. So again, let me just quickly show us what we are trying to do. We are trying to do this. This is what we are trying to do. But we are trying to now do it for a filtered table, not this entire table. So we have done another formula somewhere to filter and say, give me only, month of June. So we've done this. So the concept is just to put this one, copy it, put it, in between this place. Let me just do everything from scratch again. So we already have this formula, which we've tested and is working fine, right? I've tested, this is working fine. So what we want to do is simply replace this table here with the filtered one. So I'm going to now grab the one I have fixed. So this is the one I have fixed. Where's the beginning? This is the beginning. So I'm going to grab this and put it here. And then put it in a brackets, in a parenthesis, as I've used DID, let's still use U. And then keeping with our principle, U dot. Okay. All right, so if I run this, I should have sales, products, sales, quantity, sales amount. But let me format this. Remember I told us how to format. Format as number. And format is as number. Okay, so if I run this, I'm getting close to what I want, right? But this is not meaningful. If I do a sales report and you're seeing product ID, you are going to be like, no, can't we put the product name? How many people are going to know what product this is for? So that brings us to the last part of it, and then we'll end this session. I have products in another table. I have a table that has the product names. This one here. So I have a table that has the product names. Let's take a look at how it's saved. Product ID and the name, right? So all I need to do is join to this table. But join on what? Join on product ID. So I'm going to just go back here. Okay, wait. I've opened so many fields. Can't find the one, and I didn't save it. So let me just come here and check this one. Better just save it. Okay, good. So I need to now do join. This that we have now, I will do another join. Join what table? Join this table as products on Then I will explain to us. I need to. The group by has to be at the end. Group by is always at the end. Okay. So join on product ID, right? So on p.id, p.product ID equals to this one. Now the join I've been using is inner join. I won't be able to explain the other joins, but I will show you a product. So this is the only now additional thing I've added. I also need to now say instead of so p.product now, I need to get the product name. So product ID, product p.name. I think that's what it's called. Let me check the other time. Yeah. So now we're able to see the product ID, the product name. So yes, let's run this. Let me increase let me see if I can reduce it. So this is everything now. If I run this, that's the annoying thing. Once you put group by, you have to specify. So I'm going to tell you to group by both product ID and product name. Name. That's just all it wants. All right, so run it, boom, and that's what we want. So that's another weird thing about group by. Whenever you do group by, you want the literal values, literal columns to always be specified here. Then the aggregated columns, no worries. You can always leave the aggregated columns, but the literal columns, right? You have to somehow put them, on the group by line. So that was even though I didn't intend to group by, I only needed to group by one thing. So now that this is done, I can order by. Order by is always at the end. So I'm going to order by the P name. And in this will do by default, is ascending. So if you want descending, you will say descending. But I don't want to send it. I will leave it like this. And then this way, if you have any questions, please start asking. Oh, someone is saying I should press send the codes. Okay, so now I have the proper reports. But you see, we have to combine 3 tables. So if I wanted to, I've even had situations where I did a pivot table with SQL. It was that one is the height of city. You have to use common table expressions, and it was nice, And I generated the tables on the fly, like what it would group by. So when we group, how a pivot table can have columns and then rows. So it was now like these have just rows. It's grouping by row. In the pivot table one, it also now group by column. So you could have like region, France, Germany, and this. Then you will now have the product names, another level. It was interesting. So I'm going to stop here. Someone said I should share the code. So I'm going to just save these and send. For any questions, so SQL is very, as you can see, just all these select, group by, order, and all of that. You see how much of fun it can be. So pasting the code. There's a lot of codes, but that's for it. Okay. Okay, Bello, thanks a lot. I'm seeing a lot of all what you've sent. Okay, thanks. So any questions from anyone? If you want me to raise or mute you, let me know. If you just want to type it as a chat, also let me know. Any questions from anyone? Okay, so if no questions, this is where I'll draw the curtain and see anything I was planning to send. Okay, let me just share the feedback form. There's a place where we would like you to give feedback, what you would like us to do again, and then where the recording of the sessions will be. So I'll just share this now, and then I'll stop the recording. But thank you for joining. I'm going to do a repeat of this session in about 30 minutes time, but it will be for the Power BI community. Decided to kill two birds with one stone. By tomorrow, the recording will be live, so you can the recording will be live by tomorrow and you can watch it. Okay, someone's hand is up. Yes. Hey, Chief Tunde. Let me just make a presenter. Yes, I've given you speaker access.
Okay. Can you hear me, sir?
Hold on. I think I can hear you, but I'm hearing you from different. But go on. I think I can it's for me to change my own device here. I think my Teams device is set up wrongly. So please go on. Hello?
Question. Hello, sir.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Can you hear me, sir?
Now I hear you clearly, yes.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Okay, sir. I said I've put the question to the chat box already. Looking at the sample of the table here.
Okay.
You know, I'm seeing more like a sales table for product-based company. So how can I adopt it to a service-based company like an educational and training service company?
Educational and training. I don't know the quick answer. Like this table is for a sales manufacturing. It's actually for a manufacturing company. You're looking for a sample company that is service-based company. Is that if I interpret it correctly? Like, is there a data for a service-oriented company? Right?
Yes.
I'm not aware of anyone because, to be sincere, a service company we only have a subset of this, but there's nothing a service company we have that this we not have. So in a service company, they won't have production because they are not producing anything. They will still have purchasing. They need to procure services, vendors and all. They will still have sales because they need to make sales. They will still have HR. Obviously they will have HR. They will still have people. So person is like a universe of whether the person is your staff, is your customer, is your supplier. So it's just a person universe. So they will only have a subset. They won't have production. But I don't think there's anything a service company will have more. They can't have any other thing that is not already here. It's just the type of sales will be different. So they are a service company, so they are probably not selling physical goods, so they are not producing anything. And the name of the product will look different, but they will still have the same, order quantity, order total value. Because even when you try to buy a CRM or a tool to use to do invoice, they will always have quantity and order. They don't care even if you are a contractor where you don't usually partition things by quantity. You will have to start partitioning by that. So I'm just saying that this still applicable. But if you're looking for the one where the company is originally a service company, I am not aware of any open to use data sets that is patterned for a service-oriented business.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Then, okay, thanks. I see a question by Paul, and I see that Akim has also helped to answer. He was asking that what if you want to format by currency? So if instead of number now, if I put C, and I also see that Akim even answered that you can further more specify the locale. So he mentioned if you want it to be US currency, you put in US. and it's going to come out by default. My own computer, my region is US, so that's why mine came up with this already. But if I put maybe a Japan or like European country, I'm going to get a different currency. Let's try it. So let's say I think for Japan is usually like JP. I think that's how they usually write it. Let's just try our luck. Any other questions? See, so it worked. But thanks for the question. I'm going to just remove this and just leave it as currency. Okay, so all right. In the Power, someone is saying, Bello is saying he's interested also in the Power BI one. If for the Power BI one, it's also the same content that I'm doing. So it's just because I felt it's applicable to both sets of audiences. Then, let me just do the same thing again. And most importantly, because some people who join Power BI, they sometimes have experience with SQL. So for their own, I might be a bit faster. So I won't take so much time with the intro. We'll be doing more of the practical. At least I'll be able to do maybe like 40 minutes on like here where I spent like 30 minutes before we go to the practical side. So there maybe 15 minutes I'm done with the theoretical like slides. And it's my team members that made the slide. I can see them all here. So thank you very much. I'm going to end the session now. The Power BI one, the link for the Power BI session will be, let me just grab the link. BI. Yeah. Our BI session at 6 p.m. But I copied the link. Okay, see you next time. So thank you everyone. Thank you everyone. Thank you very much. And this is where we draw the curtain. Bye. Thanks for staying till I think we've used like 1 hour, 40 minutes. Thanks. Bye. If I ask a question that is pending, I can see it's put like a question mark. Let me go check. If I don't see any question, is it that you raise your hand or is there a question you have? Because I'm looking at the chat history, I don't see any. The last one you asked was on lightweight, and I said download the full one. Oh, okay, all right. Thanks. Bye.